Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Okay, are we back? What's the deal? Are we back? Can you guys hear me? What up, everybody? Give me a yes or no. Yeah, are we back? Okay, we're back, guys. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I guess we got the CIA messing around my live streams now. Sorry about that. Okay, anyway, guys, welcome. Thank you for being here on a Friday. I appreciate you guys. Okay, gonna get right to it. Agenda tonight, we're going to talk about black holes and wormholes. We're going to talk about warp drives. We're going to talk about Janna, I always forget her last name, Levin, on Lex Friedman. And we're going to talk about Sonny White on Joe Rogan. As somebody pointed out, we have been eating very well recently. We've been eating extremely well. The amount of content coming out related to the stuff we're talking about is crazy. And you got to wonder at some point, like, is Eric W. Davis going to be the next person on Joe Rogan? Like, is Eric Davis going to be the next one on Joe Rogan? We had Hal Puthoff, we had Sonny White, and if it was me, the next person would be Eric W. Davis. If Eric W. Davis shows up on Joe Rogan next, 100% he's watching the stream and he's just basically like interviewing the people that I'm talking about, which is awesome, honestly. Now, before we dig into some of that stuff, the first thing, we may do another MH370 evidence stream soon. You know what's crazy is that my number one post of all time right now about the satellites tracking MH370, the whammy footage might not be satellite data at all. Now, it still can. I mean, those satellites are over that location staring down at the coordinates, no question. But I'm now more convinced that that video primarily comes from a drone. High altitude drone filming down, or not even high altitude, 18,000 feet, recording down with a Gorgon stare. So convinced that after digging through the history of the Gorgon stare and finding out it integrated with Aegis, Gorgon stare integrated with Aegis, as in, whoop. What I went, okay, maybe I thought about this wrong. That when I saw that, I went, okay, maybe it is Aegis and it's Gorgon's Stare. So, long story short, we're probably going to do an evidence update stream. And to be perfectly honest with you guys, I have not submitted the AARO report. They sent me like a thing that has like what we talked about. And part of the reason was because I didn't want to be incorrect about the whammy footage. Because I didn't want to say that it was Sibbers and then have them look at it and go, nope, this isn't Sibbers. We checked. This has been debunked, because that's what they were going to do. That's what the AARO was going to do. And we only get one shot at our AARO report. So I'd rather wait and make sure we get everything right in it before it gets submitted. And now I think we pretty much have it set. Like, it is Aegis, IR, and Gorgon Stare combined. And one last thing I'm going to say about this. The reason why I'm very confident is that Gorgon Stare alone is only 2 frames per second. At least the base version of it was. But then they upgraded it when they integrated it with Aegis. It got an upgrade. And ours is 6 frames per second. So, anyway, just throwing it out there. And if we're still wrong, that's fine. But we know what we're looking at's in this area of whammy footage, Aegis, Gorgon Stare. And by the way, I looked up all of them. Every whammy system that exists, I looked them all up. So I'm not messing around anymore. We'll talk more about MH370 next week. I want to focus more on science, but there's a couple more things in the UFO community that came up. One is this Bass leak. Bass is Bigelow Aerospace. So this guy came out. We reviewed it on Wednesday. Listen to it if you want. It was actually pretty compelling. Basically says that Lou Elizondo and Jay Stratton are some gatekeepers. And it came with these pages that show this tic-tac and that show a sphere with some weird like thermal signatures or something like that. And first thing I pointed out was that I had seen that document before. I want to go ahead and just double down on that. I 100% saw that document, not just those pages. I saw the whole thing. Over a year ago. I'm not going to say more about the circumstances and how I saw it. I don't have a copy of it. I want to say I saw several documents, but I want to say I'm 99% sure there's like several pages in there about like space-time metric engineering and the physical effects and what happens when you mess around with space-time. So that's my proof for if the whole thing gets FOIA'd and released, you'll know I wasn't lying if you see something like that in there. But the thing about it is like, it's some leak from 2008. The key thing of what it shows is that it shows that they knew way more about anti-gravity and they knew more about like the tic-tac stuff. Like 2008, that time frame is well before the public started to catch on. To put it in context, the tic-tac video being leaked was until 2017, so 10 years later. So that's the important part about that. But everybody's freaking out about it, going, oh, it says UAP in there. And UAP wasn't commonly a term in 2008 or 2010. And it's funny because I recognized that too when I was looking at the document. And that's why when I was looking at the document, it felt like an insider's onboarding guide to this is how we're going to get you caught up to speed. For like somebody that's like a normie that doesn't realize all this stuff's real. That's what the document read like to me. There wasn't any like pictures of aliens or anything in the document. It was mostly just physics and stuff like that. Okay. So I'm not even going to go into more about that leak. I mean, that's the UFO community slop. I don't really care about that stuff. And then the new AARO video. I do want to show the new AARO video, which is like impossible to download or something. Like, seriously, AARO, why are you like this? I'm going to show it to you guys here. They have it on some special drive. Here it is. I guess I have to like show it through Twitter. Whatever. We're just so far ahead when it comes to like a lot of the science and stuff now, where a lot of the stuff that people are getting excited about just doesn't even matter to us. So this is the new AARO video they just released. So AARO released this video, so this is unresolved. To be honest with you, it's actually pretty compelling. This video would have been compelling before MH370. which goes to show how far we've pushed the envelope forward. We're like, if there's not something being like teleported out of the sky, I'm not really interested, right? Like I want to see faster than light travel. At least show me hypersonic travel. Is this going? Is this even going? Come on, where's the plasma orb? Get out of here, plasma orb. Let's just skip ahead. Let's skip ahead to the good stuff. Come on. This is the Marvel age. We're late. We're entitled. We want to see our... There it is. Finally, plasma orb shows up. Okay, there we go. Plasma orbs flying through the sky, and whoop, it makes an abrupt stop. Slows down. Maybe changes trajectory. Yeah, the black boxes are because they blacked out all the HUD data. So you can tell where the HUD data would be, right? So also you can tell how if ours was cropped, you'd be able to tell where they would have had to crop it to crop out all that HUD data. They could crop a pretty big video. So there's the plasma orb. Can I make this bigger? Let me put myself on the bottom. Let's do one of these. Oh, yeah. Look at me. I'm in a little circle, chat. Help me. I'm stuck in the circle. Please get me out of here. Okay, so we got this plasma orb here. And it kind of just floats around for like 10 minutes. I don't even know if I watched this whole thing, to be honest with you guys. Let's skip ahead because it actually, this isn't even the cool part. There's actually a cool part of this video after they follow it for a while. And I'll tell you what I would be looking for here is I'm looking for space-time distortions. I'm looking for space-time distortions because right away I can tell this is not an airplane. There's no wings on this thing. So this is either a balloon or this is a plasma orb. I don't know what else it can be. Probably some other options, but whatever. To me, this is probably a plasma orb when I looked at this. Because it's kind of got it doesn't have like a specific shape. It kind of seems amorphous. This right here, here you go, right there. This is the good part. This is actually good footage right here. This is probably the best UFO footage we've ever seen. Behind the MH370 videos. Because that's moving, even the background, even though it's zoomed in or whatever, the background's moving too fast. This thing is speeding along. You can see the magnetic field that is producing right there, right? You can see the magnetic field around the object. That's what I think is the coolest part. You can see it's like a lensing effect, this halo. The halo is showing that it's distorting space-time. Like almost certainly that's what I think is happening there. Pretty crazy, right? This is actually like the best UFO video I've ever seen. Normally, in any other day, chat, this would be like the name of the stream and everything. But we've just hit a point now where like somehow we're beyond this. I watched this and I didn't even get excited afterwards. I went, oh, wow, this will be pretty exciting for the normies. They can see gravitational lensing or whatever they're calling it here. But for us, I'm like, yeah. Kind of, cool. It's floating around in the sky. Does it teleport away? If it teleported away, you have my interest. But once again, you can see, I think, is there another part? They need to get rid of the damn arrows, the crosshair. So if they got rid of the crosshair, it would have been much better because that part I showed you was the best part where you can clearly see the halo around the object, which would indicate that it's got an electromagnetic charge of some sort. Damn, am I becoming one of the top UFO investigators, chat? You're probably not going to get any. Yeah, this one right here. Wow. Chat, rename the stream. Ashton Forbes. Let's say Orb Expert. Ashton Forbes Orb Expert reacts to AARO video. Well, it looks like we've got ourselves a class 3 plasma orb here, emitting a type 2 electromagnetic field around it. And we can tell that in this case, it's looking for its friends. It needs 3 plasma orbs to make a party. And in this case, there's only 1. So that's a clear sign that it's looking for friendship. It's very lonely. This one is. You can tell its emotional state. Flies around for 8 minutes. It's a sad story, honestly. Wild plasma orb. No friends. All alone. It's like Finding Nemo. Like Finding Nemo, but with a plasma orb. So anyway, let's go skip to the end and see if anything happens. I just want to know, give me the twist at the end. Does something happen or does it just kind of fade away? Like, just gone, or what happens at the end here? Does it actually just fade away? Is that what happens? I'm going to be pretty disappointed if that's how this ends. Let's go full screen here. Yep, just faded away. Yep, it's just gone. That it? Are you kidding me, right? Yeah, it just fades away. Wow. That's like, I wish I had a soundboard, because I would play like the lonely Hulk walking away music right there. Walking away and looking back. Yeah, it's like pretty sad. Wow. Is my pilled stream not working? Let's see. Okay. Let me hit some donos. Brennan, NBA playoffs and some good old action. Sounds like a great ass time to me. Yep, agreed. Marco, thank you very much for the donos, brothers. Okay, next thing. We got to get to this. We got, oh man, so much content tonight, chat. Next thing, Kirk McConnell. So I prepared a special clip just for you guys. I don't think I saw this clip get shared anywhere. Get ready for your good old friend, Deep State Chris Mellon, and Kirk McConnell. Listen very carefully to what's being said here.
Separate protecting Blue Force technologies, perhaps hypothetically, gained from the insights UAP recovery programs, but at the same time leveling with the American people about the reality, the fundamental reality that we do not have a current understanding of everything in our sky, right? Or U.S. air domain awareness. We do not have a complete sight picture. And two, that there may be technologies that are not from us, and that warrants further investigation again. But at the same time, protecting if we have any technologies, hypothetically, that have been developed as a result.
How do we disclose this stuff while protecting technologies we might have developed as a result? Lou Elizondo is asking that question to somebody else? You have my 100% undivided attention, sir. How is he going to respond to this question? Here we go. Whoops.
Well, Lou, we heard from Dr. Davis and many others who believe that we haven't made much progress with respect to deciphering what the physics are behind
that's the bullshit.
NHI and these craft that are coming here. At the same time, I mean, we don't really know that is true, that we haven't made progress. Maybe we've made great progress, and that we.
Maybe we've made great progress. Okay, now I can hear a little bit of truth coming out.
We have stuff ourselves that could be pretty marvelous, right?
Maybe we have stuff ourselves that could be pretty marvelous. I mean, are you kidding me? That's how he reacts. I feel like I'm watching Veep, or I'm watching like Larry David or something. Well, what if, Eric Davis says that we don't have anything, but what if we did? We might have something pretty marvelous out there. Are you kidding me, bro? Okay, let's just let him finish. I shouldn't judge him too hard yet.
And certainly there can be absolutely vital reasons for protecting that kind of information. I mean, one thought that is
what reasons
across my mind is, people say, if the United States government has been into this, why in the world wouldn't the government have made these kinds of technologies known for the betterment of our citizens and for?
Yes, if the United States government has magical teleportation technology, why have they not made these technologies available for the betterment of our citizens? That is a great GD question.
In common. And, one thought is like, what if once you understand the science, what if the engineering, I know Eric Davis thinks that we're maybe 1,000 years from being able to do this, but what if what if it's not true? And the government is on the horns of a dilemma. Like, It's got energy sources that might be an absolute boon to mankind, but it also is looking at the weaponization of that, and it's terrifying. And
what if it's not difficult to make? What if we don't need alien metamaterials to produce this stuff? What if once we figure out how to make a lighter, it's just really easy, except for a lighter making a flame, we are making plasma balls. Plasma balls that can just go strike someone down if they want at any point, and it's completely unstoppable. What if we figured out something like that? That's God tier level technology that isn't complicated to make. That's just a property of nature that we have forgotten because we forgot one really key element when it came to general relativity. Spin. Forgot about spin. Forgot about vortex motion. We forgot about one additional degree of freedom, potentially. I don't even know if I'm putting it the right way, but that's what we messed up. That's what this all is going to end up coming down to, in my opinion. Spin. Let's let him finish.
so, gee, is there a way that you can exploit that for your own benefit militarily, but keeping this thing somehow, this genie bottled up, where it doesn't come into the hands of a North Korean dictator?
I mean, I think he just let the cat out of the bag. Spoiler alert, I didn't clip this afterwards. Right after that, Chris Mellon's asked a comment, and he says, I think I've said too much already, and then gets up, and they all kind of chuckle. Am I the only one listening to the words come out of people's mouths? Sometimes when people tell you who they are, just listen, chat. Just listen with your ears. He's telling you right there. He's saying, hey, what if, it turns out we found some magical alien technology, but it actually is really simple. We're just dumb cavemen, and we didn't really figure out how fire works, right? That's the analogy. We just, oh, crap. Turns out we can make balls of plasma, and it's pretty easy with the current technology we have. So we can't really release it, because if we release it, now, Kim Jong-un and, ISIS terrorists, random rogue, religious states that pop up will have the capability to make doomsday weapons. Oof. I mean, yeah, it puts the government in a tough spot. I think if I'm stuck in that spot, personally, if it's me, and I'm in this terrible spot where I got to decide, do I tell the world about magical teleportation technology, or do I keep it hidden because I don't want other countries to have it? I think the only thing that I don't do is I don't go around using it to teleport civilian airliners. I'm just saying, out of all the things you shouldn't do, right at the top is, hey, should we use this magical teleportation technology we don't want anybody to know about on some random civilian airliners to just flex our big dick, to just spec our big dick around? No, probably bad idea. Maybe we don't do that. There's probably about 1 million better uses for this technology than teleporting random civilian airliners just to show that we got the biggest balls out there. I seriously cannot even begin to criticize how poor a decision whoever made this choice to teleport that airplane is. It makes me lose so much. I had this view of the CIA that they were this untouchable, would come up with these master plans. And then just see them do some stupid crap like this just makes me wonder, yeah, they don't deserve teleportation tech. They just kind of spoiled it. Anyway, that's my rant for tonight, chat. That was an unexpected one, was not on my list. Okay, one more thing I want to say is that now I'm actually pretty confident on the science as well, and we're going to dig into that right now. I just want to talk about it very briefly before we look into both of these, because I want to give you guys the context before we watch these clips and these videos, because we're going to listen to PhD physicists explain this science. And so I'm actually going to pull up the MH370 videos and explain what I think is going on now with these videos. with the most proper context. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. MH370. I'm with you, MH370. I see you. So you guys remember noise canceling headphones? We'll come back to you, MH370. Noise canceling headphones. The idea of 0 point energy is actually much easier than we've been thinking about it. So this 0 point energy all around us, it has electromagnetism to it. Even though there's no mass, no energy, the 0 point energy has electromagnetic fields. Don't tell me, tell Leonard Susskind. Leonard Suskind's the one that said it, okay? So it has electromagnetic field properties to it. What that means is that when we're doing noise canceling, we're creating deconstructive interference. So we're taking a wave and then we're canceling it with a counter wave. Cancels out. Therefore, no sound. You hear nothing. So that's how a noise canceling headphones works. So it says, here's a wave coming in, sound wave to my ear, and it says, nope, intercepted, rejected, denied, and therefore no sound, canceling the wave out. So when it comes to 0 point energy, that's the same thing we're trying to accomplish. When we squeeze the plates together, what are we doing? We're pushing out the wavelengths that are too long. The wavelengths that are too long cannot fit between the plates. So why does the Casimir effect work? It works because it pushes out some modes of 0 point energy. Therefore, the average amount of energy in the 0 point energy goes down a little bit. It goes down a little bit. And when you go below baseline, gravity flips. Gravity flips around. So now instead of it going towards the more mass, which would have been the plates going like this, they flip and they come together. So you've lowered the amount of 0 point energy by putting the plates together. So the answer is we need to make all the 0 point energy modes disappear. We need to cancel them all out. We need to do noise cancellation, but on the 0 point energy modes. And if you do that, you'll create negative energy. That's how you produce negative energy. Noise cancellation. That's the answer. So what's another way to do it? I have a simpler way to do it. How do they do it in the MH370 videos? How does Salvatore Pais do it? Don't worry about trying to figure out how to cancel every single mode out. Just produce so much electromagnetic energy in a specific area that it squeezes out all of the modes. Hit the Schwinger limit. Hit the Schwinger limit and you just push all the modes out. Doesn't matter. You don't even try to match them. Enough electromagnetic energy flux will just polarize the vacuum, creating a super powerful electromagnetic field, and just squeeze all. It basically erases all the 0 point energy fields. Poof. Gone. And then what happens? They collapse back down immediately afterwards. That's why you have to keep your wormhole open. So let me go back to the videos. So keep that in mind. And now that wasn't even what I wanted to say to you. That was just a side thing I wanted to tell you guys. The other thing is that what is Salvatore Pais? What did Salvatore Pais say? Salvatore Pais said the orbs are bathing the plane in non-ionizing radiation. What does that mean? When I typed that into my Grok chat that I had going about the orbs and the plasma stuff spinning around the plane, all of the answers were exactly the same. Bathing the plane in non-ionizing radiation is basically shooting microwaves or terahertz waves at this plane. Let's just say, for the sake of simplicity, they're shooting microwaves at the plane. Why? Because microwaves do not deteriorate the plane, but they cause alignment in the spins of the atoms. What are they doing? They are creating quantum entanglement. They are producing quantum entanglement around this plane. They're quantum entangling the plane itself to the other location. That's what they're doing when they're spinning around the plane like this. And that's why they're spinning around it in a 360-degree angle. Some of the theories on it say that they're not just quantum entangling it, but they could be mapping its quantum state onto the orbs itself. So there's still some nuance to exactly what that would mean. And then with respect to phase conjugation, let me read that part again. Let me read that part. One sec. The phase conjugation part was crazy too. Sorry, I'm looking for it. That's encoding. Okay. The non-ionization prepares the object for entanglement with the orbs or target location, a prerequisite for state transfer under ER equals EPR. So actually, when the orbs are doing this, this is actually a requirement for wormhole teleportation protocols, is to first entangle it. So of course, it makes sense they must be entangling it. The radiation induces coherent oscillations in the object's dipoles, spins, or surface charges, creating a macroscopic quantum state that is more amenable to entanglement. Wow. Unlike ionizing radiation, non-ionizing radiation avoids disrupting the object's atomic structure, preserving its quantum coherence. So they quite literally have figured out how to quantum entangle massive objects like an airplane. Where is it? Oh, and then the other part too is that it's using 4-wave pumping mixing here as well. So the orbs are basically, there's a reason why there's actually 3 orbs as well. I can't find it right here on this list, but we'll come back to it at another point probably. This part about the quantum tunneling is pretty interesting, is that non-ionizing radiation, get this, this is also crazy. Non-ionizing radiation lowers energy barriers or enhances coherence, facilitating quantum tunneling of the object's state during phase conjugation. The orb's radiation could induce a coherent state in the object, reducing the effective energy barrier for tunneling. Microwave-driven oscillations might align the object's wave function with the target, increasing the tunneling probability. This extreme charge density of the orbs could amplify the effect, creating a macroscopic quantum-like system. That's some crazy talk. Okay, cool. The triangular formation of magnetic inversion enhanced coherence and targeting. That was the last part. So the triangular formation is very specific as well, is that they are keeping it in a coherent state by making sure that they're in a triangle formation around the plane all the time. That makes sure that they have the plane in the middle. Like when I look at this, I think, wow, this is exactly how quantum computers works. This is exactly how quantum computers works. Exactly. So for people that want to know, like when I use AI, what I do is this one only had a few prompts. I basically just said, actually, this one is different than the ones I did before. This is not the same one I told you guys before. This one, the prompt initiation was just use 4-wave mixing to explain how 3 double-layer plasma orbs could use macroscopic phase conjugation to teleport to the location of a 4th orb. That's it. So I basically just had it explain science to me. And then, you know, ask follow-up questions. But the only thing that was weird about that prompt was that it kept assuming that the medium was plasma instead of the medium being air, which I didn't really understand. But so that just meant like one part of the assessment was wrong. So there you go. Yeah, 4-wave mixing, as quantum gravity points out, can be used to create a longitudinal wave. So that's why the number of orbs is very specific as well, is that they're literally creating a gravitational wave from point A to point B. I mean, it is quite literally teleportation. It's wormhole. I'm 99.9% sure now. I've increased by a factor of 10 how certain I am that's actual teleportation. However you want to phrase it. And the way that it works is that a wormhole and a black hole may be one and the same, explaining the same process that happens in space-time. And macroscopic phase conjugation is the physical encoding process by which you actually teleport something from one location to the next. because it seems like the answer isn't that you're physically going through the mirror, which is what we would imagine happen, right? You go through the mirror and then you come out the other side. Is that what's really happening is that the state of your physical presence is being reverted to a quantum state, being reverted to a wave function, which would mean that you're basically being converted back to information. The last thing I want to say on that before we jump into this is that, so I consulted my big, my heavy hitters, Dave Rossi and such, to ask about it and to really help me understand, like, why is the space not being displaced? And it really is, because it's like going through a mirror. And I think that the fact that it's being converted to a waveform is part of the reason, and that helps kind of put it all together at once. But the thing that was big about this is that, I say this with a heavy heart, Dave is certain that there's no way they survive the phase conjugation event. There's no way. Like, how does a human come out of something like that? It's one thing to do it to something that's not solid, that's, not a biological being. So, I don't know. Rest in peace, I guess. Okay. Let's get to the good stuff. We're going to start with the Janna Levin on Lex Friedman interview right here, because I'm less likely to get my stream shut down. Slightly less likely. So we're going to start with this one. Thank you, Awake Not Woke. Appreciate that can, brother. Thank you, Maven, Z-Tuck. Thank you, Rumble Chat. Thank you, Truth Seeker Cypher. I appreciate you. Okay, where is the thing? I want to start somewhere around here, I think. Honestly, if you want to know where to start on this, right around where I'm starting on 106 is where it is. Everything before this is like physics stuff that is pretty normy. If you've been following me, you're already way ahead on stuff like that. Let's go with this one.
Can you speak about some of the mysteries that the black holes present us with?
Yeah, I think it's important to separate the idea that there are these astrophysical states that become black holes from being synonymous with black holes, because black holes are kind of this larger idea, and they might have been made primordially when the Big Bang happened, and there's something flawless about black holes that makes them fundamental, unlike anything else. So they're flawless in the sense that you can completely understand a black hole by looking at just its charge, electric charge, its mass, and its spin. And every black hole with that charge, mass, and spin is identical to every other black hole. You can't.
Okay. So there is some quote.
Be like, oh, that one's mine.
She said a good quote here on 106. I want to try to find it. It's right here.
Yeah, just some of the topics. I don't know why I'm stuck to those two topics of origin of life and consciousness. But
I'll talk about this.
Some of the most brilliant people I know are stuck, just like with Newton and Einstein. They're stuck on that. This doesn't make sense. I know a bunch of brilliant biologists, physicists, chemists. They're thinking about the origin of life. They're like, this doesn't. I know how evolution works. I know how the biological systems work, how genetic information propagates, but like this part, the singularity.
One thing I got to say while I'm listening to Lex rant on and on and on here, I'm going to get shit for saying this, but we've moved way beyond Lex at this point. I used to think Lex was like the smartest guy out there. And now I'm like, I don't even know if he would be able to hold up in a physics conversation anymore. Like, he's got this like pseudo intellectual vibe thing going on where he asks like these like deepish sounding questions, but it all just kind of bullshit, right? Like, doesn't really like, it's just like something you asked, like you want to sound smart, but doesn't really like forward the conversation, I don't know.
At the beginning doesn't make sense. We don't understand. We can't create it in the lab. They're bothered every single day. They're bothered by it, and that being bothered by that tension, by that gap in knowledge is, that's the catalyst.
She said something good for here though,
for the
discovery.
For discovery.
Yeah, absolutely. The discovery is going to come because somebody couldn't sleep at night and couldn't rest.
So in that way, I think black holes are a kind of portal into some of the biggest.
Okay, I thought there was a quote there. Maybe I'm wrong, but discovery is a gap. So discovery comes from in jumps. Like, basically that's the thing. And that discovery is going to come because someone couldn't sleep at night. Does that sound familiar to anybody out there, chat? Should sound familiar to all of you guys. You're probably watching this because you can't stop thinking about the fact that the government is hiding magical technology hundreds of years beyond where we're at right now from us. That's where change comes from. Change comes from this. Change comes from movements like this, which is why everybody else is floundering. Meanwhile, space and time manipulation stonks are going through the roof, chat. Stonks are going through the roof. Okay, let's go to my next thing. Let me move this somewhere else so I can see it better. Like over here. There we go. Okay. Now, I like this lady. I keep forgetting her name. Levin. Janna Levin. Because right here, you're going to see why. Can't see the numbers, man. Twitter, why are you so like this? Okay, Stephen Hawking.
He was thinking about black holes and wanted to just add a little smidge of quantum mechanics, just a little smidge, wasn't going for full-blown quantum gravity, but kind of just asking, well, what if I allowed this nothing, this vacuum, this empty space around the event horizon? The star's gone, there's nothing there. What if I allowed it to possess sort of ordinary quantum properties, just a little tiny bit, nothing dramatic. Don't go crazy, And one of the properties of the vacuum that is intriguing is this idea that you can never say the vacuum's actually completely empty. We talked about Heisenberg, but the Heisenberg uncertainty principle really kicked off a lot of quantum mechanical thinking.
Pause, chat. Pause. The vacuum is never really empty. Guys, the special phrase has been triggered. The special phrase has been triggered, everyone. Quickly, to the ZPE mobile. Okay. Wow. Space is never really empty. That's the moment when I went, okay, I'm listening. That's why our stream kind of begins right there tonight. Here we go.
It says that you can never exactly know a particle's position simultaneously with its motion, with its momentum. You can know one or the other pretty precisely, but not both precisely. And the uncertainty isn't a lack of ability that we'll technologically overcome. It's foundational. So that there's, in some sense, when it's in a precise location, it is fundamentally no longer in a precise motion. And that uncertainty principle means I can't precisely say a particle is exactly here, but it also means I can't say it's not. Okay. And so it led to this idea that what do I mean by a vacuum? Because I can't 100% precisely know. In fact, there's not really meaningful to say that there's zero particles here. And so what you can say, however, is you can say, well, maybe particles kind of froth around in this seething quantum sea of the vacuum. Maybe
tickle the froth, chat. Maybe there's like a froth of quantum like particles. Like maybe we could call it like a 0 point energy. Maybe, hey, I have a good idea. There's this froth of quantum 0 point energy. What if we like assume it's like a medium? We could give it a dope name too, like ether. The ether. And force people to spell it with that weird AE that nobody knows how to do, but you like have to spell it that way. Like you fail your test if you don't spell it that way. That's how seriously we should take it. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Brand new ideas that I came up with myself. Nobody's ever thought of these ideas before. No physicist has ever thought of these ideas. Completely 100% original. Only in 2025 could we ever think of something so advanced as space, 0 point energy, there being a medium. A medium. Can you believe that? A medium? Can you imagine being in a medium? Like what? We're like fish? Like we're fish or something in a medium? No, I think we're a little bit more refined than a fish. In fact, I take offense to being compared to a fish, good sir.
Two particles come into existence and they're entangled in such a way that they cancel out each other's properties. So they have the properties of the vacuum. They don't destroy the kind of properties of the vacuum because they cancel out each other's spin, maybe each other's charge, maybe things like that. But they kind of froth around. They come, they go, they come, they go. And that's what we really think is the best that empty space can do in a quantum mechanical universe. Now, if you add an event horizon, which, as we said, is really fundamentally what a black hole is, that's the most important feature of a black hole. The event horizon, if the particles are...
I want to pause at the event horizon here because this is the part where I'm already way ahead of her. I'm way ahead of her on this. The moment I hear event horizon, my mind goes dynamic Casimir effect. There's only one place in nature we see the dynamic Casimir effect happening, and it is in the event horizon of black holes. What we see is we see this like curvature happen. And what occurs is there are forces so strong that we see light photons get pulled straight out of the vacuum. Imagine taking your sponge and you squeeze your sponge and water comes out. That's what we're doing to the vacuum. We're squeezing the sponge of the vacuum and light is coming out. Light, electromagnetic waves. That's what the black hole is doing. Is squeeze. Let's assume there's black holes for now, okay? Don't at me, chat. We're assuming there's black holes. They're squeezing this and light is coming out. And what we found out is that we can produce it at the nanoscale. We can do this at the nanoscale. This is not something that's limited just to black holes. They proved this in 2012 with the dynamic Casimir effect. They proved real photons pulled straight out of the ether. Okay, continue, Janna. Continue.
Are created slightly on either side of that event horizon. Now you have a real problem. Okay. Now the pair has been separated by this event horizon. Now they can both fall in. That's okay. But if one falls in and the other doesn't, it's stuck. It can't go back into the vacuum because now it has a charge or it has a spin or it has something that's no longer the property of that vacuum it came from. It needs its pair to disappear. Now it's stuck. It exists. It's like you've made it real. So in a sense, the black hole steals one of these virtual particles and forces the other to live. And
look, doesn't the black hole know theft is illegal in like every country? You can't just be stealing particles whenever you want. Okay, black holes? That shit's illegal and we'll call the cops on you and you'll go to jail. And that's where you'll be. No, but here's the thing. So the black hole is pulling one of the two particles. There's a symmetry. The 0 point energy is in balance. It's in equilibrium, the 0 point energy is, which means there's no net charge. So that would mean that there's a positive and there's a minus, and they're canceling each other out. So what they're saying is that the black hole, the intense gravitational field, rips the two apart. One goes this way, one goes this way, and now we're left with something left over. Do I really believe that theory? Not really. It seems absurd to me, but sure, if that's what you want to use. To me, squeezing the sponge makes way more sense. It's not a matter of like, oh, I stole one of these particles and went to the bizarro dimension. Do people really think that? Does that make more sense than there's just a repository of energy and we're just squeezing the energy out? Whatever. I don't care. Think of it however you want. Doesn't hurt my feelings. Okay.
if it'll escape, radiate out to infinity, and look like, to an observer far away, that the black hole has actually radiated a particle. And the particle did not emanate from inside. It came from the vacuum. It stole it from empty space, from the nothingness that is the black hole. Now, the reason why this is very tricky is because in the process, because of this separation on either side of the event horizon, the particle it absorbs, it has to do with the switching of space and time that we talked about, but the particle it absorbs, well, from the outside, you might say, oh, it had negative momentum, it was falling in. From the inside, you say, well, this is actually motion and time. This is energy. It has negative energy. And it absorbs negative energy.
Whoa. We had 2 words of the day, chat. Negative energy. There it was. Hello. Wow. Wait, did you just say this black hole is going to have like a negative energy to it? Wow, that's exactly what I want to hear. Because boy, oh boy, are we looking at a black hole with negative energy to it? I know a thing or two about negative energy events. Let's just say, no offense, Janna, you seem very seasoned, but I've been around the block or two when it comes to negative energy events. Not saying I'm for the streets, but I'm kind of well known when it comes to negative energy events. And yeah, I would say that that's a good chance that a black hole produces a negative energy event. Feeling pretty confident. Okay. Keep going, Janna.
Its mass goes down. The black hole gets a little lighter. And as it continues to do this, the black hole really begins to evaporate. It does more than just radiate, it evaporates away. And it's intriguing because Hawking said, look, this is going to look thermal, meaning featureless. It's going to have no information in it. It's going to be the most
It evaporates away. Oh, God. When I heard her say it evaporates away in the negative energy, I just went, holy Holy shit. Over the last week, I feel like my knowledge of physics has grown like years worth. It's crazy because I went, okay, wow, evaporation. I immediately thought about Salvatore Pais's email to me where he sent me the evaporation paper of black holes. He sent me the evaporation paper of black holes, chat. Why would Salvatore Pais send Ashton Forbes an evaporation paper on black holes at all? Why would he send it to me and then say, this paper will be proven wrong one day? Why would Salvatore Pais say that when we're staring at a video that shows a black hole evaporating in 0.1 seconds? A massive one. One that's huge. It's big enough to swallow an airplane. The reason why he says that is because he knows we can scale this up into an actual black hole weapon. That what we're looking at is not even, that's like the baby version of it. We can make that into something much, 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 much scarier. Like we're looking at like one of the positive applications of this technology. That's why Sal's saying that. That's why Sal's saying this paper will be proven wrong. Because otherwise Sal would be saying, hey, look, we're going to be fine. There's no way that this is going to be able to produce a black hole. This technology can't possibly produce a black hole. This paper shows it, right? Evaporates too quickly. No, we can. Okay. Yeah, we're going to get cooked by a black hole, chat. Let's move to the next part. But that part, man, Janna Levin. See, chat. For all the bachelors out there, I think that's a wedding ring, chat. Sorry, she's taken, fellers. It's rare. Let's be honest, chat. First, two things I want to say. It's rare to find an intelligent woman physicist. Very rare for some reason. And two, if I was an OnlyFans woman, OnlyFans lady of the night or whatever they call themselves, we probably already had 0-point energy disclosure. No chance, no doubt. I'd have slept with all the top spooks or whatever, and we just have full disclosure at this point. Let's just be real about it. Let's just be real about it. It's just kind of depressing to think about. That's the state of our world, that things like that matter more, but they do. Okay, let's look at more Event Horizon stuff. Chat, male OnlyFans doesn't pay the same way female OnlyFans does. There's a pay gap. And I'll tell you what, guys, I'm a libertarian, but the pay gap between men and women in OnlyFans, it's really unfair. It's unfair. Having a big brain does not equal having big boobs. And I feel like OnlyFans should have to pay reparations to sciencey physics types like us, who we get no benefit, and it feels like they're discriminating against us. Just saying. I've become woke, guys. I don't know if you knew that, but it happened. Once it started impacting me.
Oh, well, maybe one person thinks they fell in and one person thinks they never fell in, and that's okay. No big deal. They sort of exposed flaws in these kind of approaches, and it actually reinvigorated the campaign to find a solution. So it stopped it from stalling. I don't think anyone really believes that at the Event Horizon, you'll find a firewall. But it did lead to things like the entangled wormholes embroidering a black hole, which was born out of an attempt to address the concerns that AMPS raised. So it did lead to progress.
So for you, the resolution would...
I'm going back to the vacuum, the empty space, the beautiful Event Horizon.
Yep.
I'll give up locality, meaning that I will allow things to be connected non-locally by a wormhole.
So that...
We have a triple word score, chat. We just hit the turkey. Wow. Holy schmoly. Out of nowhere, just out of left field, she just gives up. She just gave up. She just gave up. She said, you know what? 0-point energy, you win. She just surrendered quicker than the French do in basically every single war. She said, 0-point energy, you win. I'll give up non-locality. You're allowed to teleport. It's fine. GG, chat. GG. I guess GG's. Wow. Just like that. You're allowed to teleport. No problems. We got I don't know. Whatever she is, top physicist. That's what her new title is. Top physicist, Janna Levin. Top physicist Janna Levin from a top university, I'm sure. Straight up said 0 point energy is real. We're allowed to teleport. It's not against the law anymore. We got a teleportation pass. TP pass, chat. Not everybody gets one. We're pretty special. I feel special. I want to talk to Janna Levin. I really appreciate it. Let's just see what she has to say about wormholes now. I didn't expect her to just be like, oh, here you go. Here's validation for you. Hey, MH370X, you want some validation? Boom. Blot out.
That is the weirdest thing you're willing to allow for, which is arbitrary distance connection of particles through a wormhole. But quantum mechanics must be preserved.
I'll entertain pretty weird things, but I think that's the one that sounds promising. The implications are so dramatic because this is why you start to hear things like, wait a minute, if the event horizon only exists when it's sewn out of these quantum threads, does that mean that gravity is fundamentally quantum mechanics? Not that gravity and quantum mechanics get along and I have a quantum gravity theory and I now know how to quantize gravity. Actually, something.
Hold on. This is very important. What if we tax people for teleporting? I feel like we'll tax all the other countries. See, this is why we need disclosure. This is actually no cap, chat. No cap. We actually need teleportation disclosure so that we can corner the market on it and just tax everybody else. Just have full cornered market on teleportation technology. I mean, that's got to be worth trillions of dollars. Like, this is where I'm like, how is America not the richest country in the world? Like, we have definitely fumbled the bag beyond all possible comprehension. To have secret teleportation technology and free energy technology and be cornering zero economic markets. We produce nothing in America. We produce nothing. Everything is just like bought from other countries. It's just, that's what honestly pisses me off the most as somebody who has like studied economics in school, business major. Like that level of corruption where they're just screwing over our country for their own greed when they know they could be like helping us all out. Can't stand it, chat.
Much more dramatic. Gravity is just kind of emerging from this quantum description that gravity isn't fundamental. And what is the only thing that we have when we go rock bottom, when we go deeper and deeper, smaller and smaller, is quantum mechanics. So
gravity is an emergent phenomenon. Gravity is not a fundamental force. Gravity is an emergent phenomenon from what? Oh, the 0 point energy, that energy that she was talking about. The relative amounts of total mass energy in a region dictate gravity. It dictates, how space-time bends. And that just makes sense. You have more stuff over here, less stuff over here. You create a hill. So what's the hill? Gravity. Gravity is the hill. And we're experiencing that in this three-dimensional world, universe. Yes, thank you. JK Philly fan, have a little more respect for our new Yaz queen. I'm going to assume she's a doctor, Dr. Levin, from she's a top physicist from a prestigious university. And she's worked on extremely important projects as well. So please, throw a little more respect on her name. Thank you. And no, I'm not just, what do they say? Yeah, ritzing her up just because that she's supporting 0 point energy. No, that's an absurd statement. I am never be biased like that. I would never be unfair just because someone supports 0 point energy. You guys are ridiculous. Ridiculous.
All of this, like space-time looks nice and smooth and continuous, but if I look at the quantum realm, I'll see everything sewn together out of quantum threads. And that space-time is not a smooth continuum all the way down. Now, people already thought that, but they thought it kind of came in chunks of space-time. Instead, maybe it's just quantum mechanics all the way down.
Quantum threads, so these entangled particles.
Oh, I swear to God, if he says the word string theory, Lex Friedman, I will never let you live it down. You say the word string theory right now, I'm going to be triggered as hell. Because she basically laid it down there. She said, boom, why are we thinking about stuff as big? She's saying, let's do things, scale things down. If you scale it down, maybe quantum mechanics can explain everything. Maybe the 0 point energy can explain everything. Now, for people out there wondering, Ashton, what do you mean? I'd say, watch my interview with Dr. Yu on Yuan theory. everything is magnetism. Everything is a north and a south dipole. If you stack two together, you become a neutral charge. You get this neutral object. That's gravity. So really, when you think about it, everything should originate from one small particle, so one small superforce, one small originating aspect of nature. And then everything builds up from there. And everything we see on the large scale is just an implementation of what we see on the small scale. Scale invariance. Get used to that word, that phrase. In fact, I'm going to say it. Scale invariance, chat. Remember it. What does it mean? Everything that we can do on the small scale, we can do on the large scale. What are the orbs doing? The orbs are entangling the plane just like we were to prepare something to shoot it through a quantum tunneling situation. How does the electron quantum tunnel through the barrier? The plane is quantum tunneling through the barrier of straight up space-time itself. They're replicating quantum effects on the small scale up onto the large scale, onto the macroscopic scale. And how do they do that? Huge amounts of charge, huge amounts of voltage. And then there's one more interesting thing she says here, I think.
Connected by wormholes.
Yeah.
So that's how would you even visualize a black hole in that way? So it's all,
okay, here we go.
I mean, it's all sort of from our perspective in terms of detecting things, the light going in, it's all still the same. But when you zoom in a lot,
to the quantum mechanical scale at which you're seeing the Hawking radiation, you would be noticing that there's some entanglement between the radiation that I could not explain before and the interior of the black hole. So it's now no longer a perfectly thermal spectrum with no features.
Wait. Listen to what she just said. There would be some entanglement between the black hole and what's in the black hole and the radiation on the outside. If you really boil that down, she's saying that there would be entanglement, non-locality, between energy, mass and energy on the outside and mass and energy on the inside. If you just boil down the words into what they mean. What she's talking about there is a teleportation protocol. I'm going to replay that little bit, if I can hopefully rewind it just a tiny bit. Yeah, right here. Listen to that again.
Going in, it's all still the same. But when you zoom in a lot,
to the quantum mechanical scale at which you're seeing the Hawking radiation, you would be noticing that there's some entanglement between the radiation that I could not explain before and the interior of the black hole. So it's now no longer a perfectly thermal spectrum with no features that only depends on the mass. It actually has a way to have an imprint of the information interior to the black hole in the particles that escape. And so now, in principle, I could sit there for a very long time. It might take longer than the age of the universe and collect.
See, you guys are starting to get it. John Edgewood, teleportation is the creation of a black hole. Now we can take these words that we've been learning and we can piece them together. What is the physical mechanism by which you teleport something? Well, you're converting it to a wave function. You're doing macroscopic phase conjugation on it. You're basically jiggling it to get it down to one single point. Jiggle it. What is the mechanism by which you teleport something? You create a wormhole between 2 points, and a wormhole is just a black hole. At some point here, I don't know if he says it right here, maybe I skipped it, but Lex Friedman says something about, wouldn't that be like two black holes being connected to one another? And that's the part I went like, okay, I just lost like 5 points of respect for Lex Friedman. Because if you're a physicist, shouldn't you immediately think that like a wormhole connection will be a black hole and a white hole? The opposite, right? What comes in must come out. One has things come in, one has things go out. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too judgy.
To all the Hawking radiation and see that it actually had details in it that are going to explain to me what was interior to the black hole. So the information is no longer lost.
So information is not being destroyed. So in theory, you should be able to get information.
Now I can't do that any more than I can recover the words on that piece of paper once it's been burnt. But that's a practical limitation, not a fundamental one. It's just too hard. But when I burn a piece of paper, technically the information is all there somewhere. It's in the smoke, it's in the currents, it's in the molecules, it's in the ink molecules. But in principle, if I took the age of the universe, I could probably I should be able to, in principle, reconstruct the piece of paper and all the words on it.
Do you think a theory of everything that unifies general relativity and quantum mechanics is possible? So we're like skirting around it.
Yeah, we're skirting around it. I think that this is the way to find that out. It's going to be on the train of black holes that we figure out if that's possible. I think that this is suggesting that there might not be a theory of quantum gravity, that gravity will emerge at a macroscopic level out of quantum phenomena. Now, we don't know how to do that yet, but these are all hints.
Emerge. So a lot of the mathematics of anything that emerges from complex systems is very difficult to...
The transition is very difficult, right?
Is it difficult? I feel like it's not. I feel like I've been saying it on podcasts for like months and months and months. I've been saying Hal Puthoff's 1989 paper, Gravity as a 0-point fluctuation force. I feel like it's not that complicated, and I feel like Dr. Levin there just explained it. Like, I feel like she explained it pretty adequately. I mean, she didn't use the best analogy, but she just said it right there. So I don't know what people are talking about with string theory and like 15 bazillion different kinds of subatomic particles and all this stuff. I'm feeling like you guys are just overthinking it, right? What it comes down to is that there's some fundamental basis of the universe. There's the most basic particle. Maybe that's just a magnetic particle like Yuan theory. And everything from there is scaled up. That's it. We should be thinking about it from like that simple perspective. Scale doesn't matter. Bigger, smaller. If it's just positive and minus, you can make scale happen on any level. The mechanism by which we achieve scale invariance on the larger scales, we call Bose-Einstein condensate. That's what we call it. That's the name for it. The idea being you can create a macroscopic coherent structure. Coherent meaning if I were to make something that looks like a person on the small scale, it looks like a person on the giant scale. But maybe its components, what makes up of it, what makes it up is not necessarily exactly the same. It's a coherent structure. And they figured out how to perfect that, apparently, at least with respect to atoms. Yeah. So there you go. If that blew your mind, by the way, you're going to love my content. So Bose-Einstein condensate is basically another state of matter by which we can achieve coherence, and you can have like a scaled up atom, scaled up ball of plasma. And why this is important is that when we look at those plasma balls, there's like another Nobel Prize to be won there about how they're able to separate the charge and make it so that the charge isn't just scattered everywhere. Like the charge is cohered together, moving around in one unison. That itself is Bose-Einstein condensate in order to be able to create that coherence like that. So, yeah, and when people say, sometimes people will say the word fractal, that's another way of looking at it. Fractal is just another way of saying scale invariance, meaning you're seeing the same patterns at large scales and small scales. So let's let her finish this theory here.
So if that's the case, there might not be a simple, clean equation that connects everything.
There are examples of emergent phenomena which are very simple and clean. Like I can just take electromagnetic scattering, which is law of physics, where particles scatter just by electromagnetically. And I have a lot of them, and I have a lot of them in this room, and they come to some average. Well, I call that temperature, right? And that one number, the fact that there's one number describing all of these gazillions of particles is an emergent quantity. There's no particle that carries around this fundamental property called temperature. Right. It emerges from the collective behavior of tons and tons of particles. In some sense, temperature is not a fundamental quantity. It's not a fundamental law of nature, right? It's just what happens from the collective behavior. And that's what we'd be saying. We'd be saying, oh, this emerges from the collective behavior of lots and lots and lots of...
So that got me thinking about something else. That was the last part I wanted to listen to. There's a couple more clips we're going to listen to before we go to the next one, but what even is temperature? Temperature is an emergent phenomenon too, right? Temperature is just what we use to explain the motion of particles, or what we call particles. Why is there more heat? Because things are moving around more. They have more energy. They're just moving faster. So therefore something's hotter. That's all temperature really is too. And that really made me think about it in terms of like, the 0-point energy and how that connects to the observable energy that we see. It really is, the scenario really is like we're sitting on top of the ocean and there's this whole ocean of invisible energy that we don't see, but it's there. And there's this barrier between us and it, but it's also there all around us all the time. And temperature is just what happens from collective behavior, right? Like, why is it warm here versus on the South Pole or whatever, it's really cold? Where there's this collective behavior of these electrons and particles in the atmosphere in various regions. But if you were to look at it, if you were to really go and look at it at a big scale, it would look like big clumps moving around, right? Okay, let's listen to some wormhole action. Actually, I'm going to take a look at this list real quick, too.
Energetically favorable. It's going to take off. It's really just, and that's why I also think that going from inanimate to animate is probably gray. Like the transition is gray. At what point we call something fully alive? Famously, it's hard to make a nice list of bullet points that need to be met in order to declare something alive. Is a virus alive? I mean, I don't know. Is a prion alive? They seem to do some things, but they kind of rely on stealing other DNA and replicating, and I don't know. I guess they're not alive. But I mean, the point is that it really, at the end of the day, I really think it's just, you asked if it's just physics. I mean, I think it's just these rules of energetics.
And the gray area between the non-living and the living is...
They talked about aliens, and I honestly don't even remember, so it must not have been very memorable. But she's a smart lady, so presumably her answer to aliens is, well, whatever is based on physics, and they must live in the same... I think she said something about them living in the same universe as us, so it's not like they have some special physics that they obey, which is a smart take. So I'm going to pretend like she said that.
Way simpler just on Earth, and you said it's already complicated on Earth, but it's probably even more complicated elsewhere, where the chemistry could be anything.
Carbon is really cool and really useful because
nice.
It finds a lot. It's nice. It finds a lot of ways to combine with other things, and that's complexity. And complexity is the kind of thing you need for life. You can't have a very simple linear chain and expect to get life. But I don't know. Maybe sulfur would do okay.
Okay, as we get progressively towards crazier and crazier ideas, so we talked about these microscopic wormholes, which, you know, my mind is still blown away by that. But if we talk about a little bit more seriously about wormholes in general,
now you're
also called the Einstein-Rosen bridges, to what degree do you think they're actually possible?
I swear to God right now, if Lex Friedman still says the black hole thing, even though I'm looking at a picture that has black hole, white hole connected here, I'm going to be triggered.
Possible as a thing to study, creeping towards the possibility, maybe centuries from now, of engineering ways of using them, of creating wormholes and using them for transportation of human-like organisms.
I think wormholes are a perfectly valid construction to consider. They're just a curve in space-time. The topologically, which has to do with the connectedness of the space, is a little tricky because we know that Einstein's description is completely in terms of local curves and distortions, expansion, contraction, but it doesn't say anything about the global connectedness of the space, because he knew that it could be globally connected on the largest scales. This kind of origami that we're talking about, that you could travel in a straight line through the universe, leave our galaxy behind, watch the Virgo cluster drift behind us, and travel in a straight line as possible, and find ourselves coming back again to the Virgo cluster, and eventually the Milky Way, and eventually the Earth, that we could find ourselves on a connected, compact space-time. And so
that is, I love everything about this lady, because that's what I think the answer is. I think we're going to find we're in an infinite universe that just circles back around on itself, just like our planet, right? Like, why would it be any different? Why would the universe be shaped any differently than we see all the planets being shaped, right? It's either going to be shaped like a donut or it's going to be shaped like a sphere. That's pretty much how I think the universe is going to be shaped. And no matter how you look at that, if you go in a straight direction, you're going to come back and end up at the spot you were at before. That's how I think it's going to end up working, but we'll see. And somebody pointed out Tesseract. Tesseract's just a higher dimensional, like hypercube or something like that. And Ashton Rosen Bridge chat. Can you imagine if they rename it Ashton Einstein Rosen Bridge chat? We're adding a name. We're adding a third name. Actually, we would add 4 orbs. Einstein Rosen 4 orbs Bridge. That's what we're going to call the new one. When this is honestly, mark this down, chat, right now. Historical day. What day is it? Friday, May 9th, 2025. When it gets confirmed that a black hole is the same as a wormhole, and the process by which you teleport someone, the protocol, is a macroscopic phase conjugation event, vibrating them into, like, I don't know, whatever they do, vibrating them down into a wave. I just love that visualization. Then we have to add one name to the end of the Einstein-Rosen bridge. Has to now be Einstein-Rosen 4 orbs bridge. Not Forbes, not that Forbes. 4 orbs. It must say Einstein-Rosen 4 orbs bridge. Yes. I get to troll all of humanity for all the rest of time. That's the perfect reward, the absolute perfect reward. And then the short name for it would just be called the 4 orbs bridge. Just call it the 4 orbs bridge. We're just phasing things out of the sky, chat. Phasing them out of the sky. And then we can call it cool. Yeah, like, doesn't it sound dope? Just be like, yeah, we just phased that out of the sky. Like, what do you mean you just phased it out of the sky? Yeah, we just turned it into a wave and made it disappear. Like what? Like some Harry Potter shit? Yeah, like some Harry Potter shit. Basically. We did some Harry Potter shit and then just phased it out of the sky. Now it's not there anymore. Like, where did you send it? Wherever I wanted to send it, to the 4th orb. It's a 4 orb bridge. Of course it goes to the 4th orb. Duh. Okay, let's get serious for a second.
Well, logically, there's something we know for sure, something beyond Einstein's theory that has to explain that to us. Now, wormholes are a little funky because they're topological. You know, they create these handles and holes in these sneaky, by topological, I mean these connected spaces. And
yeah, it's like Swiss cheese or
like
something.
Swiss cheese. And so I could have, I could have 2 like flat sheets that are connected by a wormhole, but then wrap around on the largest scale, all this cool stuff. There's nothing wrong with it as far as I can see. There's nothing abusive towards
the way she says that, like, there's nothing wrong with it. It almost sounds like bigotry, doesn't it? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's okay to be gay, chat. There's nothing wrong with it. It's okay to like wormholes. There's nothing wrong with it. You can be whoever you want to be. Like, feels a little bit condescending the way that she's saying that. Like, you can sleep with whoever you want to sleep with. You want to believe wormholes? I believe them. Like, no Diddy, chat. No Diddy, by the way. No Diddy. No Diddy goes without saying, chat.
It's the laws about a wormhole, but we can reverse engineer. We were saying, oh, look, if I know how matter and energy are distributed, I can predict how space-time is curved. I can reverse engineer. I can say, I want to build a curved space-time like a wormhole. What matter and energy do I need to do that? It's a simple process. And it's kind of thing Kip Thorne worked on, very imaginative, creative person. And the problem was that he said, oh, here's the bummer. The matter and energy you need doesn't seem to be like anything we've ever seen before. It has to have like negative energy. And that's not great. There are some conjectures that we shouldn't allow things that have that kind of a property, that have negative energies. Only things that have positive energies are going to be stable and long-lived. But we actually know of quantum examples of negative energy. It's not that crazy. There's something called the Casimir effect. You have 2 metal plates and you put them really close together. You can see.
Chad, it's a Casimir effect party recently. Everybody's talking about the Casimir effect. We had Hal Plutoff talking about it. We got Janna Levin talking about it. We have Sonny White talking about it. What do my eyes see? The Casimir effect right in front of me. Look at me, I'm rhyming out here.
This kind of quantum fluctuation between the plates. It's called a Casimir energy, and that can have a negative energy. It can actually cause the plates to attract or repel depending on how they're configured. And so you could kind of imagine doing something
well, chat. No, continue. Don't let me pause.
Like that, like having wormholes propped up by these kinds of quantum energies. And people have thought of imaginative configurations to try to keep them propped up. Are we at the point of me saying, oh, this is an engineering problem? I'm not saying that quite yet, but it's certainly plausible.
I'm saying that. I'm saying it's an engineering problem. I'm not. No. Let me just backtrack. I'm not saying it's an engineering problem. I'm saying they've engineered it. They've engineered it. They've used quantum computers. They can coordinate orbs flying around in the sky, spinning around. They've engineered wormholes, teleportation protocols on the macroscopic scale. They've engineered it. Whew, wow.
Yeah, so you have to get a lot of this kind of weird matter.
Okay, so I think she keeps going about, let me see here. Where are we at? Yeah, negative energy. Okay.
Sure.
You need a lot of this weird matter to send a person through.
Right.
That's going to be really challenging. So I'm not saying it's simply an engineering problem, but it's all within the realm of plausible physics, I think.
I think that's super interesting. I think it's
Okay, so let me just go ahead and explain it for you. Negative energy is the Casimir effect. Okay, well, what did we just explain at the beginning of this live stream? What is negative energy? What is the Casimir effect doing? The Casimir effect is canceling out certain wavelengths of the 0 point energy. The more wavelengths you cancel out, the more negative energy you're producing, right? If you cancel out more, if you get the plates closer and closer and closer, you're canceling more and more wavelengths out. And what that means is the plates are going to come more force between the plates. And that's exactly what happens. So the more wavelengths you cancel out from any region of space-time, the more negative energy you're going to get. So how do you keep a wormhole open? What is a wormhole? A wormhole is if you push out all the 0 point energy around a region of space-time, that's what you're left with. That's a black hole. That's a wormhole. Pushing out all the 0 point energy. If you push out all the 0 point energy, you get a black hole. True nothingness. And potentially it can allow you, if you quantum entangle two locations, to go between one location and another. Wow. Okay. One more thing maybe. Dark matter. Skip ahead a little bit.
As incredibly precisely as we do. It's stunning that there's modern precision cosmology. It's absolutely incredible. When COBE, which is an experiment that measured the light left over from the Big Bang in the 80s, first revealed its observations, I mean, there was applause, people were cheering, right? It was unbelievable. We had predicted and measured the light left over from the Big Bang. And because of all the precision that's happened since then, that's how we're able to confront that there's things that we don't know. And that's how we're able to confront, wow, this is really everything everybody has ever seen and ever will see, as far as we understand, makes up less than 5% of what's out there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so I would...
So basically, she's talking about dark matter, dark energy. We already kind of know the deal in dark matter, dark energy. They think they have no idea what it is, blah, blah, blah. We know it's just 0 point energy just explains it, right? So 0 point energy doesn't explain it. We're disputing its existence. She said something about nobody disputes its existence. Yeah, we dispute its existence. And then the funny part is here, she says something about logic and hypocrisy. Here, let's listen to this.
It's a fascinating study of human psychology, but they did this experiment where I forgot who funded it, but they sent like physicists and flat earthers to Antarctica.
Really?
And the split happened because half of them got converted into round earthers.
Wow. Well, good for them.
But then the other half just went that it was all a psyop.
Really? That's fascinating. Did somebody film that? That'd be a great documentary.
Yeah, they did. They made a whole thing. This is just at the end of last year. There's a big meaning, because I think that's such a clean study of conspiracy theories. Because like there's so many conspiracy theories have some inkling of truth in them.
Please continue. Lex Friedman's about to hang himself with a rope here, chat. Let's just let the man do it. No one stop him. Just let him go.
Like there's some elements about the way governments operate or human psychology that it's too messy. Flat Earth to me is just clean. It's like spaghetti monster or something. Like it's just a cleanly wrong thing. So it's a nice way to
understand
discuss
the psychology.
How a large number of people can believe a thing.
Yeah, and why do they want to believe a thing? Yeah. What's very interesting is you trying to use rational arguments. So that makes it even more confounding to me. I would understand more somebody who just said, look, I have faith and I believe these things, and it's not about reason and it's not about logic. And okay. I mean, I don't relate to it, but okay. But to say I'm going to use reason and logic and to prove to you this completely orthogonal conclusion, that I find really interesting. So there's some kind of romance.
I find it really interesting too, chat. In fact, I would love to ask Janna Levin here a question, which is, how do you justify dark energy and dark matter that you just justified like 3 minutes ago? She literally went from justifying making up completely made up terms for gaps in cosmology. We don't know what dark matter and dark energy are. What that means is our cosmological model failed. It's failed. That's what that means. It means it can't explain what we see up there. So instead of accepting that we got it wrong, we invented fake terms called dark energy and dark matter. Literally, this is what literally has happened. We invented fake terms called dark energy and dark matter, and we have, in face of all evidence to the contrary, we've searched for dark matter and found nothing. They've already done the experiments. They can find no trace whatsoever. Despite all of that, we've still chosen to believe in it, despite all evidence to the contrary. This is the part where, no offense to Dr. Levin there, still appreciate her, the ultimate hypocrisy of hating on flat earthers while doing the exact same thing they do is not lost on me. You rip on them for saying they don't use any logic or reason in their decisions, and they use a belief-based system, and then you use that exact same system to rationalize away how cosmology doesn't make any sense. So we don't have to explain it. We're just going to come up with dark matter and dark energy. You say, where's gravity coming from? And they say, I don't know. How can you be a physicist and you can get asked where gravity is coming from and you just say you don't know? You don't know the origin of gravity? How much of a astrophysicist can you be? There must be some answer where it's coming from. What's the mechanism by which it occurs? So I have to point out that it's a bad look to rip on flat earthers when history is going to look back at that conversation, probably look back at this live stream in 50 years, and they're going to go, those people were the equivalent of flat earthers. They just didn't realize it at the time. They'll have an excuse. They had no way they could have known, but that's the reality. They were basically flat earthers talking about concepts that are going to be taught to like children. The idea of 0-point energy producing gravity is something that we're going to teach like little kids in the future. And here we have adults talking about it with no clue on, just conceptualizing on where it might come from. Yeah, and actually, in some ways, it is worse than flat Earth because these people are gatekeeping the people that are trying to bring the science and the answers out. People are trying to explain that 0-point energy is the answer. But then you have people going, no, because we're stuck in a particle viewpoint where we must have dark energy and dark matter. We can't admit that the photon isn't really a particle. Sad. One last bit. Actually, I think that's it. There was one, she said something at the end about the holographic principle as well. And she says that, I don't know where it is in there, somewhere in that, the whole universe is a holographic projection of a lower dimensional surface. I think she says that somewhere in there. The whole universe is a projection of a lower dimensional surface. Exactly. Holographic principle. The universe is basically a video game. That's why we can cheat. That's why we can teleport. If you want to understand why is it possible we live in a physical reality in which we can teleport? Because we're playing around with dimensions, and dimensions basically let you zoop, zoop, because we only perceive these three dimensions, one-time dimension, and the 0-point energy. We don't perceive the ability to transfer through distance instantaneously. Of course, we experience moving through distance. Okay. So what's the cheat code? Well, we spoke through it. The cheat code is quantum coherence. Quantum coherence. The cheat code is scale invariance. Whatever you can do on the small scale, you can scale up to the large scale. We already know that you can teleport through quantum teleportation. That means if we scale up what we're doing, then that means we have to understand what's happening at the small scale. So resonance is very important. Okay. Now, the second interview I want to look at, we're going to see how much we can get through on this, is Joe Rogan's interview with Sonny White. So first I'm going to read my comment on the top of this. We're just going to pray that we don't get shut down in the middle of this. Chat, by the way, if we get shut down in the middle of this, I love you guys. And, it's all worth it. It's all worth it. So, how do I make this bigger to see the comments? There it is. Oh, look. Wow, 256 upvotes. I wonder how many people realize the significance of this interview, said this random person here. This is NASA's top warp drive researcher who showed experimental space-time curvature. He also tested the EM drive and showed anomalous thrust, which later had to be refuted with a terrible debunk attempt. He's one of the world's leading experts on warp drives. Time to watch. Yeah, and then I saw this thing about so many people saying that they should have you on the show, and it was kind of weird. There was a lot. Let me hit some of these donos real quick. Thank you to Japanese name. Comb out some truth from all that deep state bullshit served on a plate of mockery. Yeah, we're trying, man. I'm going to use some Harry Potter magic. Deep status expellus. Spell the deep state, chat. Gary, thank you for that donation. Your work is appreciated in the UK. Keep it up. Will do, Gary. Thank you very much. JX Peace. Janna Levin, Hard Truths Podcast. Yeah, I'm probably going to reach out to her. We'll see. Probably have a lot of people telling her not to talk to me. It is what it is. Chaotic Good. We're living in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon universe. I don't know if I go that far, but yeah, it is pretty clown shoesy for sure. And thank you very much for that second donation. Horton Ears a Who. The universe is an infinitely large as it is infinitely small. Scale invariance. Thank you, Truitt, for the cookie, and thank you, Matt. Wow, pushing out all the 0-point energy makes a black hole. The concept just popped off for me, right out of the vacuum. Exactly. I think when you simplify it to really help people understand, well, what is negative energy? We're thinking about negative energy the wrong way. We shouldn't be trying to produce opposite energy. We should just be thinking, what is it that produces the 0-point energy? What is it that is below sea level? Oh, it's a bunch of fluctuations that are all canceling out. Oh, well, what if I like push all the noise away? Oh, what's left? What am I left with? Nothing. Real nothingness. Something below sea level. Something opposite to the world we see. We see the, what do they call it? The bizarre, not the bizarro land. I don't know, whatever. And then one more dono here. Disclosure on human history history of humanity and Antarctica Atlantis is crucial to the survival of the human race. Chat, I actually really do hope that it is some like Atlantis stuff going on or whatever. I'm kind of afraid. I had a really scary just like thought. Like imagine a scenario by which the United States government is doing an operation on MH370 and they're monitoring it with their drones. And then all of a sudden they just see some orbs come out of nowhere. Like that. Let's say the fire was their operation. They were just planning on the plane crashing in the water. And then instead some orbs zap it away from some super advanced AI. Like the amount of technology on display in the videos is terrifying. The level of technology on display, like I was trying to add up how many Nobel Prizes we're talking, like beyond where we're at right now. And I think I'm already up to like 5. Minimum 5, like major discoveries. So, God, if it's aliens, we are just straight up cooked. Like, if aliens have those orbs, we got no chance. Just show me where to bow down. Show me which alien I got to pray to or whatever. I don't care if it's got a mantis head or a lion head or weird smooth head with big bug eyes. Just whatever. You win. Yeah, they definitely have it. We got it. Okay. Here's the interview. Now, I want to start with this thing on this where they talk about, and this is where I'm going to dog on Joe Rogan a little bit. I can't believe I live in a world where Ashton Forbes dogs on Joe Rogan, but here we are. This is the world we live in.
So we'll have to have more of an understanding of what gravity actually is.
Yes,
and what generates gravity.
Yeah, and it's not just the gravity thing. It's quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics quantum mechanics is completely incompatible with general relativity, right? And so this is a big issue, right? There are tons of people that spend their entire life trying to figure out how to unravel this mystery. It's a big conundrum.
Well, it's so fascinating to me because if you
right there, that I think that was actually the exact moment that I said Sonny White's on the deep state, no question. Sonny White's with them. He's not on our side, guys. After watching, I have no question whatsoever. Like, I was talking to my dad about this at lunch earlier, and I went, the way he was reacting to the questions, like he's got a free energy microchip, and he never says that in the interview. He never says it. He's like, hey, Joe, hold on to this microchip that produces a voltage. What do you mean it produces a voltage from what? What does it produce voltage from? It's not plugged into anything. Oh, it just produces voltage from the 0 point energy. Oh, you mean it's a free energy microchip? How does Joe Rogan not connect it? And then also Sonny goes, we were just incidentally, you know what? We're going to get to that part. I don't want to spoil it. Let's keep going.
You were a scientist in the 1400s and you were having this discussion with those people, they would think you're a wizard.
Absolutely, especially if you held up something like that.
Yeah,
Man.
you held
Good
up
grief.
your
I get burned at a stake.
Imagine
right?
they show the screen,
right?
You know, and
right.
I said, Jamie, pull
Right.
something up.
Yeah,
like,
pull
"What is
something up.
Is he watching my live? Are these guys watching my live streams? They're using the exact same analogies that I'm using every night, right? Like imagine going back to the Middle Ages and giving them this. They'd burn you at the stake. He literally says they'd burn you at the stake. How many times have I said that? Like 5 times? Like it's actually, we're getting like too meta here, I think. Like I'm watching them talking about the physics that like I'm talking about them on. I don't know.
Doing? What is happening?
What is it that you showeth upon thy wall, right?
So imagine, you know, extrapolating. Imagine going in the future and seeing what all this stuff is going to look like once we gain more and more understanding, which more scientists, more researchers piling on their discoveries, and then ultimately one day we'll be looking back on 2025 going, look at those barbarians. Like,
oh my gosh, did you see that show with Sonny and Joe where they were talking about what a bunch of maroons?
They didn't even know what gravity was.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It'd be like bloodletting.
Yeah.
It's really kind of interesting because
that show is happening right now. You're watching it right now. They're going, what is gravity? And we're going, gravity is a 0 point fluctuation force. They're going, imagine what it'll look like when they have warp drives in the future. And they're looking back at us, laughing at us, talking about it. Yes, that's what we're saying. We're saying, hey, Joe, imagine what that would look like. Keep going.
I bet every current civilization thinks it's at the pinnacle and that, you know, this is, you know, everybody else. And I'm excited to share
to this whole difference between to space and through space. Okay, and so as part of that narrative, right, I always spend a little.
Somewhere in there, Joe says something about if we saw this thing, we would never recognize it, you know, like just like how giving Da Vinci the iPhone or whatever, right? You're never going to be able to recognize it because it would just look too crazy. Well, yeah, that's what we're looking at when we're looking at the MH370 videos. God, I can't even get it to work. We're looking at it. We can't recognize teleportation because we haven't seen it, because we are primitive cavemen. We're not really at the pinnacle of all civilization right now. We are just cavemen still working off of crappy ass technology. Teleportation seems silly and impossible to us because we're ants. Because we are ants. Okay, let's skip ahead. Fusion propulsion.
Beings will have created technology that far exceeds that and probably beat them to it.
Yeah, you kind of see that hinted in the video too, right? Where you got the slow boat, and then you got the fusion's the next one that comes by, and the guy's like, you know, waving as he goes by.
Well, for sure, you would be a sucker to get on the first ship. Because by the time it gets there, the new ships will have already been there for months.
Yeah. They'll welcome you when you arrive, right?
The grandchildren of those people will welcome you.
Yeah. So the fusion propulsion is kind of the next step in the story. And so when we make that step, we're a little bit into the unknown.
Excuse me, good sir. Did you just say fusion propulsion? That's the next one? I don't suppose they would do that with some plasma, would they? Fusion propulsion with a plasma? Well, yes, they would. In fact, another guy who's been working for NASA by the name of Richard Eskridge was working on just that thing. I think it was aneutronic fusion propulsion, but yeah, plasma fusion propulsion. And his daughter was Amy Eskridge. Just want to throw that out there. I just think that's an interesting connection that Richard Eskridge was working on plasma fusion propulsion for NASA. Pretty neat. So Alcubierre as well. Now, this is the other thing I want to point out, guys. I cannot stress this enough. One of the big surprises, and by the way, yes, hit the like and subscribe button, please. I'd appreciate it. I'm trying to hit 100,000 so I can give my nephew a plaque. I think they send you a plaque or something. So I'm going to give it to my nephew. Damn, I lost my... Oh, the thing that surprised me was that when I was trying to figure out how teleportation worked, how warp drive worked, how all this stuff worked, it was just Alcubierre's warp drive metric all along. It was the paper that was out there in the 90s that was explaining it. That was the answer the whole time. That was the answer. The math is good in there. The math adds up. It's just general relativity. So I was surprised by that because it's relatively straightforward answer. You just need negative energy. Contract space-time in front of you and expand it behind you, and you will go forward. That's it. So then the problem is just negative energy. I thought there was going to be some complicated quantum mechanics that you would have to do to add this stuff up, and then therefore you could create your teleportation. Now, you can kind of argue you do with the phase conjugation, but overall, the concept is much simpler than I thought. I just want to point that out there for people that, you know, it turns out things are simpler, not more complicated. Two quick donos just came in. I never bought the magnetic concept of gravity from a few streams ago because magnets don't stick to me. I like this explanation better. It's fine. The answer is that magnets, you know, when you stack them together, they can create gravity. Stack them together. Like one magnet, no. But if you stack magnets together and get them to neutralize their magnetic field, then you get the force of gravity, a much weaker force. Wow, thank you for this donation. Just like that, I don't know, king guy who taught immortality and ascension to humanity just to get stalked to death by the deep state Luciferians. Humanity needs to embrace magic with attitudes like Disneyland. Well, that is a viewpoint. That's a viewpoint. That viewpoint is beyond me, but there you go. Thank you very much for that donation.
So this is an illustration of the idea of a space warp. Let me give just a little bit of background. You know, in physics, there is a speed limit that we have to acknowledge when we talk about trying to go somewhere really quickly.
Okay, we're going to skip through the speed limit part. You guys already know the answer, right? You speed up faster and faster, you face more and more resistance. The 0 point energy prevents you from going faster than the speed of light. Even prevents you from achieving the speed of light. So what's the way around the speed of light limit? Remove the 0 point energy. Why? Because that's the thing that's slowing you down. So remove the 0 point energy. The 0 point energy, all those noise waves are slowing you down. They're not hearing something. They're slowing you down. So do noise cancellation on the 0 point energy. Now you're not going to get slowed down anymore. Now you can accelerate beyond the speed of light. Boom. Okay, so then...
times the speed of light. So yeah, really, really, really fast, right? And so we know from astrophysics and cosmology that this is possible. And so this idea was kind of rattling around in a physicist's brain called Alcubierre, who said, hey, well, you know, this is interesting. Nature can do it on a grand scale. Can we potentially do it in a purposeful way? And so he published a paper in 1994 that kind of encapsulated the mathematics for this idea. And if you take his mathematics and you put it into physical form, it's going to look like my little cartoon here on the right. And so you got the little ring that goes around the little surface here. It looks like a wave. And then there's a little central portion there. It kind of looks like a football, let's say. And so what happens is that ring that goes around that little football, that's what's necessary to make the trick work. And so it has to be filled with something called exotic matter. And so that's an important issue, right? What's exotic matter, right? So it's something in general relativity.
What's exotic matter, chat? What's exotic matter? This is what's wild is we're going to correct Sonny White. We're going to correct the warp drive expert because we don't need a ring around our craft. We had something better. We can just have our plasma balls converge, and they're going to push out all the 0-point energy. They're just going to push out all the 0-point energy. And look how crazy close the real warp drive is to the sketches. The sketches use a ring around the object. We don't have a ring. We have 3 orbs circling around our plane in a ring formation. Life imitates art. Art imitates life. It's a vicious cycle. So I'm really, really triggered by the fact that Sonny White called it exotic matter. Why are these people? It feels like disinformation. It feels like when people call the smoke contrails, stop calling it exotic matter. Stop calling it negative mass. There's an equivalence principle. Energy equals mass. E equals mc squared. It's not negative matter. There is no negative matter. There is, like, that's what's so silly about it. Again, read gravity as a 0-point fluctuation force. It explains it. It says there is no negative matter because energy is just energy. There isn't a negative version of energy. It's just below the baseline. We're conceptually looking at the problem wrong. The problem has nothing to do with the math. The problem has nothing to do with the theories. The problem has to do with the concept. You're looking for Harry Potter magic, and there is no Harry Potter magic. There is no mysterious, invisible, dark energy and dark matter. You're just looking at the problem wrong. Everything above the baseline is positive energy. Everything below the baseline is negative. We know that because of the Casimir effect. The Casimir effect shows a negative pressure and gravity as a pressure force. That's it. I just explained it. If you don't understand, go back 30 seconds. There you go. Now, he steals another one of my analogies. Sonny White stole 2 analogies from me in this interview. 2. Ready?
The idea how a space warp works in theory, if you will. This is just a thought experiment. So thought experiments aren't exactly precise, but they do help communicate the idea. So when you go to an airport and they've got those long conveyor belts, if you will.
Yes.
I think they call them travelators. And so they help us move quicker between gates.
Yeah, by the way, folks, you're supposed to walk on those things.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You hear me?
Absolutely.
Walk.
Right.
Lazy
right.
fucks.
So if you think about,
I'm just going to skip because I don't want to get my thing. They're talking too slow for me. So basically, he uses the travelator scenario. So what is a warp drive actually doing? You're not moving in the warp drive. That's how it gets around the problem of acceleration. Well, that's one of the ways it gets around the problem of acceleration. It's just moving the space around you like a travelator does, just really fast or slow. It can move whatever speed it wants. If you change the medium, you're no longer bound by the physical limitations of acceleration. Move the medium around you. Exactly. You're riding the wave. You're creating a gravitational wave and you're just riding it. So in that case, you're not moving. You're on the conveyor belt. Your legs are not moving. You're not expending any energy to move. That's the rub. That's why Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric is the cheat code. That's the cheat code. And then you think, well, why do I have to ride the wave linearly? Can't I just ride the wave, bloop, and appear wherever I want? Yes, you can. That's the super cheat code. The super cheat code is once you ride the wave faster than the speed of light, you can just go anywhere. You can go anywhere. And now, what speed limit are you bound by? I don't even know. I don't even know what the real speed limit even is at that point. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it turns out you can't go faster than 100 times the speed of light. Maybe there isn't a speed limit. Maybe you have instantaneous transmission. I think that's what they were testing. I think in the MH370 videos, it was short-range teleportation. And I think that it wasn't a situation where they've done this a million times. I think they've done it a few times, and then they knew what was going to generally happen. But I think they were testing the transmission, short-range teleportation, potentially to see how long it takes, stuff like that. How do you make it better? Maybe have long-range teleportation be the thing of the future. Imagine a situation where they're trying to build a Stargate to Mars or something like that. Anyway, just throwing some ideas out there. So he uses the travelator, and then he talks about how the warp drive looks very similar to conceptual drawings that were drawn in the 60s. People were drawing warp drives in the 60s, and it looked really similar to what the warp drives ended up looking like in real life. Here's an example. That was a warp drive conceptual drawing of the 60s. Now, that one doesn't work because the nose is sticking out too far from it. You can't have your nose sticking out from your bubble. So the bubble is what's super important when it comes to the teleportation. You got to be inside that bubble. That's why the orbs are perfectly locked on the plane. And that's AI, 100%. That's AI. That's a computer controlling those orbs. That's a computer controlling those orbs. That's a computer program being run. And that's what scares me the most, is that if that's aliens, then aliens have or are using AI, or they are AI. Or they are AI. And pretty much my worst fear is aliens being AI. That's pretty much my worst top fear. Definitely means we're in a prison planet scenario. Definitely means we're cooked. And it definitely means we should have banned thinking machines probably like billions of years ago. Okay, so then Sonny White, a couple more things here. He talks about negative energy, and guess what? He brings up, chat. What does he bring up?
And say this may cause problems. But quantum mechanics has this stuff called negative vacuum energy density, right? And so maybe we can unpack.
So I was sitting there thinking that Sonny White was just spreading disinfo. And next thing you know, he goes, well, 0 point energy has negative vacuum energy density. So now he's saying the exact same thing that Levin was saying a second ago.
Back that. So what is negative vacuum energy density? So let's talk about some of the implications of quantum mechanics and how they're a little different from our.
You know what? I'm going to skip through this because it's just going to be repetitious. But basically, he says all the exact same things that we just heard from Janna Levin. All the same things. Casimir effect, blah, blah, blah. Boom. So we're already ahead of it. Einstein-Rosen four orbs bridge. Remember it, chat. Einstein-Rosen four orbs bridge. I want that thing named after me. Okay. I'm going to skip ahead here because let's get to the good stuff here, right? So it turns out Sonny White is just producing a free energy microchip.
Potential on that little structure where the pillars in the middle are at a different voltage from the walls that are in the picture there. And in the process of doing the analysis to help us understand how thin do we need to make those rod-like structures you see inside the cavity gap. When we study how the quantum field responds to those structures, we noticed a kind of an unanticipated intersection with the idea of a space warp. If you look at, there's like in the picture, there's like a little.
So you just said right there, you were doing your free energy device and you were testing out the Casimir, plates, the differences. And when you were looking at the effects of the quantum energy in terms of you pulling this energy out of the quantum vacuum with your microchip, your free energy microchip, you just happened to notice the image on the top right there, the top middle, it looks just like a space warp. You just happen to notice that. You just happen to build a microchip that produces quantum space warps. No, sir. I believe in a lot of crazy coincidences, and I'm willing to believe in a lot of crazy conspiracy theories. There's no effing way that you randomly built a free energy microchip, knowing how difficult it is to make microchips, that just randomly also shows microscopic wormholes, warp bubbles. No way in hell that was a coincidence. Are you kidding me? No chance.
Blue surface overlaid on top of the center pillar there. And you've got those two little regions that are like yellow. I think Jamie just moved his mouse over those, right? So that's the pillar. And if you move up, that blue surface shows the quantum field's response. So that negative vacuum energy density distribution you hear me talking about, that is like a section cut in terms of what that looks like And so we're trying to make sure that the nature of that distribution allows us to see a voltage difference, right? Which we do see.
It's just legitimately insane what I'm hearing here, and nobody picked up on this. There's nobody talking about this on Twitter somehow. In the bottom right corner of the screen, you can see the design of the microchip. The design of the microchip is basically a bunch of Star Trek warp drive enterprises stacked next to each other. The whole point of this is creating little Casimir cavities. The sphere around the thing in the middle creates a Casimir cavity effect. That's the point of what they're doing right there. Creates a Casimir cavity, it produces negative energy. The negative energy distribution that he randomly saw on this free energy microchip that they totally weren't designing for this purpose, by the way, guys. Crazy of you to think that. Also happened to have a perfect quantum negative energy signature that perfectly matches a warp bubble. That's what he's showing there in those images. The top images is from their test. The bottom image in the middle is a theoretical warp bubble. Bro, how deep state is my man? How deep state is he? I don't know how Joe Rogan was just eating this up without asking serious questions. If Sonny White starts telling me this bullshit here, bro, this is a DARPA project too. You weren't accidentally doing a DARPA project and just accidentally found microscopic warp bubbles. Just, tell me a real story, one that actually is believable.
That now we can go to the middle pane here. The top picture there is that image on the bottom left. And so you see those little yellow, kind of looks like a lenticular shape. And then if you look at the picture beneath that, that is a section cut of a space warp, that ring that goes around the spaceship. So if you look at the distribution of the exotic matter on the bottom pane versus the distribution of negative vacuum energy density in the top, they're qualitatively very similar to one another. So we, as part of an extra credit, right?
It's not very similar. They're fucking identical, chat. They're identical. And it's also what we were theoretically assuming would happen. We're going, hey, if we pull this energy out of the vacuum, this 0-point energy using this microchip, it should produce curvature. That's what we've just been talking about this whole time. Negative energy, exotic energy. You might as well just call it space juice, okay? Instead, stop calling it negative energy and exotic energy. Just call it space juice. We'll let you use space juice, okay? So this space juice that we need to make our ship fly, this is how we produce it. We do noise cancellation on the 0-point energy and we get space juice. Boom. Free space juice for everybody. Okay, so now after all this, he talks about Hal Puthoff. He randomly brings up Hal Puthoff here. Like, bro, what?
In this particular area of innovation, like where, if I was running the government and I wanted someone to work on some sort of top secret stuff like this, how would I even find the people?
That's a tough question to answer because
you need experts. Taking that question and going into like some specific steps you might take, right? What disciplines are relevant, right? And that's a difficult question to answer because there's so much stuff that we don't know. You probably would have to sample from a number of different disciplines, right? Both in general relativity and quantum mechanics.
Okay, so Joe Rogan's like, how would we get this all? How would we figure this all out? How would we do all this? How, if I wanted to get somebody who knew how this all worked, how would I go? Well, he's like, well, you probably have to get multidisciplinary things. And really what he's either saying or not saying is you need electrical engineering, you need physics background, and you probably need a little bit of chemistry.
With some hope that maybe you've got the right sprinkling of ingredients to bring to bear to that. And then there is a history of, I think, some folks in academia that actually like to think about advanced power and propulsion that are also just primarily physicists in their day-to-day capacity, right? You know, Hal Puthoff, although he's got many and varied interests, he's a great physicist. He's published a lot of great papers in the literature just thinking about physics, right? He's got some stuff he's looked at.
Which paper is your favorite, Sonny White? Which paper would you say your Hal Puthoff paper? Which one do you like the most?
Called the polarizable vacuum.
Oh, polarizable vacuum, chat. Polarizable vacuum. Chat, that is a double word score. That's a bingo. That's a go ahead and take it home, chat. Polarizable vacuum. What is polarizable vacuum? Oh, well, we're going to push out all the 0-point energy modes. We're going to squeeze those modes out. We're going to polarize. We're going to electrify the vacuum with a powerful electric field that squeezes out all those electromagnetic fields. And that's not going to do. That's going to give us negative energy. It's going to give us the negative energy we need. Salvatore Pais knows this. Salvatore Pais knows this. He knows that we have it, and he's pissed off that they won't let him do it, which is kind of funny if you ask me.
And so, in my drawer of preferred papers, I have a number of papers in there that are from Hal's work on the polarizable vacuum because I find it interesting and fascinating. And so there may be some things out there that are
out of all the people to name drop when asked how we produce this, when asked how the government would figure this out of all the people, Sonny White says Hal Puthoff's polarizable vacuum, the one that we did a whole live stream on, saying how it explains the physics of what happens and how it's possible that you can teleport physically within Einstein's general relativity. And he doubles down. He goes and he says, I've got a bunch of papers by Hal Puthoff. Yeah, me too. I've read them all. Anybody should have read them all if you want to understand how to manipulate gravity, because this guy is clearly the #1 expert in the world on zero-point energy. Clearly. The way I found Hal Puthoff and how I found Sonny White, how I found both of them, was Salvatore Pais's papers, high-frequency gravitational wave generator. Just go look at the references. Hal Puthoff, gravity is a zero-point fluctuation force. Anomalous thrust detected from a microwave cavity emitter, aka EM drive. See how it's all coming together, chat? Salvatore Pais gave us the map we need to expose these people, to expose the technology they are hiding behind the scenes, and there is no way we are going to fail on that front. So I want to go to the next thing here, and this is very relevant to what we've been talking about at the beginning of the stream and yesterday. There's only 3 more clips, and then we're going to be done for tonight, guys.
For official use only,
This is
right?
on the internet. It's got to be legit.
Yeah. I am a French model, right? Based on everything we know with aerodynamics, it should have a sonic boom, and if right, and it's some solid. It's for official use only,
This is
right?
on the internet. It's got to be legit.
I ruined it.
I am a French model, right?
It's just to buy stuff.
Oh, it's just to buy stuff. It's just goofy. It's just silly. We need to get those. Get some Tic Tac stuff.
The
lack of sonic boom is one of the things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like if that thing could move at that kind of a hyper.
Pause chat. The lack of a sonic boom is one of the things I want to talk about. Me too, fam.
Hypersonic speed, there would be some sort of a sonic boom.
Right. If it's not exactly right, if it's not some kind of laser system that's creating pixels, right, and it's some solid thing, if it's going supersonic, it's based on everything we know with aerodynamics, it should have a sonic boom. And if it doesn't, and it is a physical thing, then that demands an explanation, right? And I wouldn't be able to explain that, right? And so that's exactly why something like the data that comes out of the Tic Tac thing, I haven't been able to just pound flat and make go away, right? It keeps surviving all of my grumpy physicist attacks, right? So
does it frustrate you that you've never seen one of these things, or have you?
So funny story.
Okay. So I'm pretty confident the answer is a mirror. So I also want to point out one more thing on this, is that imagine our bubble encapsulates a certain region. That doesn't mean that the entire bubble is moving. Only the plane or submarine or whatever the object, only the object is going through the portal. That's the answer to your guys' question. Everyone wants to understand, how is it that there's no shockwave when the plane disappears? Shouldn't that region of space be replaced? You're thinking about it wrong. Inside the bubble, time is slowed down or sped up, however you want to think of it. So inside the bubble, space is equalizing in normal time. So the answer to the question is that from our perspective on the outside, it looks like the object just flew through a mirror and nothing was disturbed. But from the perspective of space filling in on itself, the only thing that actually was transported was the physical object, the plane and the people inside the plane, which really brings up a lot more questions for me, but wow. So that would mean that the air is not being transported. The only thing really moving is the plane. And that also connects to the idea that what the orbs are doing is bathing the plane in non-ionizing radiation. They are making the plane the target. The plane is the target. That's why they're circled around the plane. They're creating a coherence effect on the plane itself. Pretty wild. It could also just be gone, but I'm 99.9% sure at this point it's not an annihilation event, that it's actually like a teleportation thing. And yeah, what's happening is there's this wave mixing happening with the orbs, and they're acting as pump waves to like charge it up, basically. To map it, charge it up, snap. Boom. Nothing is really moving. Distance is annihilated. Exactly. Okay, so now I want to look at the Casimir battery. Here you go. Oh yeah, here he shows his microchips right here. There they are.
About some of the applications, right? You know, this is, let's see, can we go back a couple slides? Keep going.
He has
keep going.
He literally gives.
All right, so
I can't get over this.
Just spend.
He gives Joe Rogan a free energy microchip. Joe Rogan is holding a free energy microchip in his hand, and he doesn't even know what it is. He doesn't even realize the significance of what he's holding in his hand. I can't even wrap my head around it. I would kill for a free energy microchip, and I find out that Sonny White has one, and his whole warp drive bubble thing has been based around his free energy microchip. You can't make this up. You literally can't make this stuff up. The only way any of this stuff can be true is exactly how it's playing out. These dudes literally all have free energy microchips. We've got Casimir cavities. We got free energy microchip over there. Sonny White's got his own free energy microchip, and his is making warp bubbles. It's almost like they know the free energy part of it's just like a bygone, like they just foregone conclusion. And here we go. Casimir effect again. How many times have we seen this Casimir effect image today?
Maybe 3 minutes here talking about the Casimir force, at least picking up where we left off. Okay. Right. So we talked about the idea of the Casimir force is a macroscopic observational consequence of something called the quantum vacuum, these fluctuating fields and forces. You go to the next slide, Jamie. So conceptually, the following is true, independent of anything that we're doing with the nanotechnology we're developing. If you allow the quantum field to interact on these two metal plates that we talked about as part of the Casimir force, it will apply a force over a distance, and it will cause that gap to close and go to zero, right? So that is, by definition, a force over a distance. And so that is a unit of work. So the Casimir force phenomena is a illustration of extracting energy from the quantum field. So independent of anything that we're doing.
Okay. I'm just going to repeat what he said. The Casimir effect is extracting energy from the quantum field. So that there's no way to debunk what I'm saying. Those were his words that he just said. The Casimir effect is extracting energy from the quantum field, and experimentally, he showed microscopic warp bubbles. That's what he showed. And when he says nanotechnology, you just say microchip. Can we just say microchip? Why do we have to cloak everything in all these words that all mean the same thing? He's talking about microchips, nanotechnology. Yeah, we get it. Microchips. Thank you, Matt, for the donation. Do you feel there's a risk of a blue beam scenario? No. The blue beam scenario is done with. There's zero chance they're going to be able to blue beam us at this point. We've already broken through the zeitgeist. If they were testing it on MH370, do you think they also might be testing on human life forms to see if they can survive? It's possible. If it's a test, then absolutely everything's on the table. Table of Titans says, he gifted the ship. I want my space juice. Thank you. I think that's a big donation. Thank you very much, Table of Titans. You're a hero, my man. Thank you very much. I want the space juice too, brother. EM Drive for Filter Dog is impossible drive. Google EM Drive. You'll find out Sonny White tested it. And he tested that it gave thrust out of nowhere. It's just a cone, and it gave thrust. Filter Dog gifted the can. Thank you very much. And thank you for my Rumble chat and, of course, everybody on YouTube. Okay, a couple more. Here we go tonight. So here's his Casimir battery. Let's just skip past this. We already know how the Casimir effect works. I think he actually mentions Robert Forward as well. So he says that you can't basically perpetually use the Casimir effect, but we don't give a shit about perpetually using the Casimir effect. We figured out how it works now. We've figured out how it works now. Now, guys, you tell me how it works. How do I get energy out of the 0 point energy field? Well, I just cancel 0 point energy modes. That's it. If I cancel 0 point energy modes, I will get energy, what we call energy, in the form of movement, in the form of gravity. So if I cancel 0 point energy modes around a plasma, I can create fusion easily. Easily. Create two negative energy zones, and you will cause an attracting force between them. In fact, this is almost certainly how Ken Shoulders' charge density, condensed charge stuff works, which is why I know the plasma orbs are 100% proof of fusion. 100%. No question, no doubt. They have figured out fusion. They've figured out cold fusion. All this bullshit that we get from the public is all just nonsense. There's two kinds of science out there, chat. There's the science that the deep state knows about, that they hide from us, and the bullshit science that we get fed on the public, which is about 300 years behind. That's my new thing. I'm going with it. 300 years behind. And yes, we are borrowing energy from the universe. Now, let's go to the power of microchips. They actually talk about it here. Like this interview just went like so crazy. Next thing I know, Sonny White's talking about free energy microchips, and he's explaining lithography to Joe Rogan. Truthfully, I'm not even mad at Joe Rogan. These are better guests than me. How could I be mad about him having Hal Puthoff on, him having Sonny White? I would tell Joe Rogan to have those people on before me like 10 times in a row. Those are real experts. Now, are they also full of shit? Yeah, they're not saying a lot of stuff that they know, but they're still useful for the normies.
You make the decision to buy a 1 kilowatt Casimir module, right? And you connect it to your car. That module will provide, over a 24-hour period, it will provide 24 kilowatt hours of capacity. And so in terms of the driving duty that I just talked,
he's literally explaining free energy to Joe Rogan right now. He's going, hey, you could have a 1 kilowatt Casimir module. Chat. He's saying free energy microchip. Well, how many times? Like, I literally think he's watching the stream. It's actually getting so insane at this point. He explains to Joe Rogan for like 2 minutes here how you could just get a microchip and you put it in your phone, and your phone wouldn't run out of battery anymore ever again, because the average use of your energy is less than how much that thing provides over a 24-hour period. Yeah, he just used 1 kilowatt as an example. That's just an example. Yeah, it's a free energy microchip. If my phone never has to be plugged in, it's called free energy. I don't know what you call it, whatever the hell you want to call it. You want to call it a Casimir module? You want to call it extracting space juice from the quantum 0 point energy fluctuation fields we're extracting space juice from the virtual photons, chat. It sounds like the most made up shit ever. If that makes you guys feel better, then that's what we'll say. We're extracting space juice from the virtual photons. It's real, chat. It's very fucking real. That's the last swear. Okay.
To you about, right? You're not going to drain the battery enough where the Casimir cell couldn't just continue to recharge it. So in that particular instance, even though we might be a little bit down to 12 months, and then we got the time down to 7 months, and then we got, these guys down to.
So now he talks about the lithography process and how they got it more and more and more efficient. And I'm just going, we are on the verge of free energy microchips. Like, with or without me, guys, like, we're on the verge of it. People like Sonny White and other people doing what he's doing, these people are going to make commercial free energy microchips. And we're talking like within the next 10 years. Like, the moment one of those becomes enough energy where you can charge your phone, you have a $1 trillion idea, maybe even more than $1 trillion. We might be looking at a $100 trillion business. Like, it's actually going to just invalidate so many industries, and it's going to be extremely disruptive. A lot of people are probably going to get killed over it as well. I don't really want to be the person that does it, because The first person that comes up with a free energy microchip is not going to be alive. Probably like the 15th person that does it will be the one that makes a lot of money off of it.
You're looking at our chips, and you're seeing these squares and circles and tiny little different shapes and so forth. But it's projected on a big screen. Now imagine for a moment, instead, you go through in some CAD program and you draw.
Okay, so he kind of explains lithography and how you can make it super tiny. And then the last thing is he talks about auto manufacturing and the microchip.
On trying to try and attract some chip manufacturing capability here in Texas, right?
Yeah, we were talking about the Samsung plant that they built here.
Yeah.
But the Samsung plant kind of highlights the issues because they weren't able to achieve the tolerances that they required in large batches.
I think they'll eventually get there, right? This is those are just illustrations of the fact it takes a while to get everything dialed in. Just like it took us 18 months to get our first chip, and then now we're getting a 2-week sprint. We can make our chip, and it took 5 years to get to that capability, if you will. I think they'll get all that figured out. But in my mind, the other value proposition for chip manufacturing, right, is, to me, chip manufacturing is like the 21st century automobile manufacturing jobs, if you will. It seems like that could provide a great opportunity for, people to get meaningful work that pays well, that makes a product that a lot of people need, right? And so I think in some ways that's the upside to trying to focus on getting more chip manufacturing here in the States, right? So I just think that's a
I cannot agree more with that last statement. And I have to agree with some of the people in the chat. Rogan's not this dumb, man. I don't think he's this dumb. This feels very controlled to me. I got to be honest. I don't know if he's watching my streams or what have you, but this is like so on the mark that it's just kind of weird. Like, I've been talking about free energy microchips and now microchips of the future and what have you. And next thing you know, Sonny White, like half the interviews about his free energy microchip and making microchips, talking about how America needs to be making free energy microchips. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. I couldn't have said it better. Why are we hiding this stuff? We need to be making this public so that we can corner the market on free energy microchips. We need to be producing all the microchips in America. Not in Taiwan, not somewhere on the other side of the world. America needs to be doing the lithography. Like, outsourcing this is crazy. Whoever controls the market on free energy microchips, I mean, there is no other industry that matters, except for maybe portal technology with teleporting around. But we can corner the market on that too. One of the things that upsets me the most is that we've had this technology figured out. We should have been working on ways to make sure that America can corner the market on some of this stuff. Instead of worrying so much about when Russia and China are going to figure out the plasma orbs, let's worry about getting our industries a boost before their industries can catch up to it. That's who's going to win in the long run. We got to be thinking way further down the road. We shouldn't be thinking 50 years ahead. We should be thinking 1,000 years ahead. That's where this level of technology is at. Is whoever controls this technology, you control the world for the next 1,000 years. You control it forever. That's how powerful this technology is. And you hit the singularity. What I truly think happened, to end the stream tonight, guys, what I truly think happened is that they hit the singularity behind the scenes, the technological singularity, and it just got out of control. It got completely out of control. And while our technology was increasing like this publicly, their technology was increasing like this. And that's how we were able to get to a point where, even though it's only been 80 years since, let's say since Roswell, they've been working on this technology, they've gotten 300 years more advanced than we are at right now. Because they're advancing 5 years in the future for every year we're advancing, or 10 years in the future for every year we're advancing. That's the problem. The problem is Pac-Man's mouth. The difference between our growth and the growth of the people who are hiding, we'll call it Tesla technology, zero-point energy technology, whatever you want to call it. Okay, one more thank you to all MH370X 4 Orbs crew, the donations, Rumble, Pilled, and YouTube. I have a moment of zen for you guys tonight. I think I do. Hold on. Okay, chat. Yep. Moment of zen, chat. Trying my best not to get canceled from Twitter or all the social media platforms. Here we go. You know who it is, chat. It's always the same. Wait. Wait, how come? There we go.
Is there a possible way to generate an artificial magnetic field on Mars so that it can have a thicker atmosphere and protect colonists on the surface from radiation? There a technology that we could theoretically develop, or would we be better off trying to build underground colonies on Mars?
Pretty good question.
Yeah. So what she knows is that here on Earth, we have a magnetic field. Not very strong, but we have one. That's why compasses. Anybody remember what a compass is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Old school.
Old school. We have a magnetic field. And when dangerous charged particles come from the sun, we call it the solar wind. So when
Okay, I don't remember what that was supposed to be funny about that. Maybe it was the old school thing. I forgot. Whatever. Anyway, guys, have a great night. Love you guys. MHG70X. Peace out, y'all. Later. Let's go with this one.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Explore